Welcome to the Filipino American Women Project, also known as TFAW Project for short, a podcast show that features stories and life lessons told by American women of Filipino descent. We're your co-hosts, Jen Amos.
And I'm Nani Dominguez.
And thank you for joining us.
If today's conversation resonates with you, text us and let us know at 415-484-8329.
And if you want to show us some love, buy us boba at buymeacoffee.com/Jen and Nani.
It says coffee, but we love boba. Again, that's www.buymeacoffee.com/Jen and Nani.
Awesome. With that said, thank you all for your love and support.
Now let's get into the show.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Filipino American Women Project here during the month of Filipino American History Month. As always, I am your creator and co-host, Jen Amos, and of course I have my amazing co-host with me, Nani Dominguez. Nani, welcome back.
Hey everyone, what's up?
Yes. And I just have to say, I know you've already been back, but it's just been great to actually have you back. And especially as we, kick off this month strong and end it strong for Filipino American History Month. So just thank you again for powering through motherhood to show up, for our show.
Yes. Well, thank you for being flexible, and we will probably be interrupted at some point soon by my baby, who is going to wake up at any minute now and start screaming for some milk. So yeah, if you guys have been listening to the episodes leading up to this one, you probably have already heard that happen, and it's only going to continue to happen. So
yeah, so get used to it, at least for the rest of this month.
Yes. Thank you for your grace.
Yeah, we appreciate it, and we love you all for it and for your continuous support. So all that being said, Nani, we are excited as we always are, but this is actually a special conversation because you are once again introducing our TFAW Project family to another one of your family members. So would you like to go ahead and do the honors of introducing our guest for today?
Yes. So today I'm bringing another family member to you all. Like Jen said, this is my cousin Keani. Keani, welcome to the show.
Hello, everybody.
Yes. So Keani, welcome to the show. I know that we already did some kind of note taking before we got started offline. So I'm just really excited, and I'm really looking forward to our kind of candid conversation for today. Nani, I want to ask you really quick, first and foremost, yes, Keani is one of your relatives, but more importantly, what compelled you to invite her to our show today?
Yes. So Keani is special in our family because she gets to teach all of our kids, now that all of us cousins and, for them, their siblings are all having babies. Keani actually teaches Filipino studies and has taught that with a previous guest that we've had that she actually introduced us to, Ate Allison, which is episode, I don't know, we'll fill it in later, and it will be in the show notes. But if you guys listen to that episode, if you know who she is, if you're in the San Francisco academic world, then you probably already know Ate Allison and the PEP program. So Keani can give us a little more background on her involvement in that. But yes, she is lucky in the sense that she gets to pass all that wisdom down to our kids. And for Filipino American History Month, this month especially, I wanted to bring her on and just share with you guys her background and how she kind of plans to do that with her kid as well as mine. And how she also does that, already with her students.
Yes. And just as a quick reminder to our listeners, as Nani had mentioned, you can listen to Ate Allison in her episode, which was actually 1 year ago, BT Dubs. So her episode was 70. Yeah. Could you believe? Episode
Time
70.
flies.
Yeah, right. So episode 25, which was titled Our Story is the One Thing That Belongs to Us, Filipino American History Month. So 1 year ago, special with Dr. Allison Tintianco Cabales. But yeah, it's just so crazy to think 1 year later, here we are with you, Keani. So Keani, I know that Nani and I talked a lot already. So do you have any opening thoughts?
Oh, it's just great to be here, and I can't wait to share my story. I didn't even think about it, how I'm going to be the one to teach next generation.
No pressure.
Oh, wow. I was like, oh my gosh, everything's on me right now. No, but that's actually pretty special too, because I feel like I missed out on that with my grandma passing really early. So I I wanted to become a teacher. And I wanted to become a teacher because, I thought I loved kids, or I do love kids. And
I thought I loved kids until now.
I was really good working with them. I always did after school programs. I could do this. I want to do this for my future. So it was the kids first, right? So I got into state and I saw this class that I had to take. And it was Filipino American literature and culture, or art and culture. And I was like, wow, I've never taken a Filipino class ever. And I was like, oh, let's do this. And I remember walking into that class and it was packed. It was packed because everyone wanted to be in that class and I was on the wait list. And when Ate Allison came in, she came in with her Louis Vuitton bag. And this is on purpose. So she came in with like a hairstyle, Louis Vuitton bag, and she came in with a fan, like on purpose.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what kind of class am I in? This is so crazy. But I was like, that looks like my tita,
Who is this tita? Yeah, exactly.
It looks like my tita. What, is this the teacher? After that whole entire class, I just felt, this is amazing. I hope I could stay in this class. I'm on the wait list. And if you know anything about state, if you're on the wait list, it's easy to, not be accepted. But knowing Ate, and this is pre-COVID too, knowing Ate was like, if you could bring a chair, you could be in my class. I was like, all right, so everyone wanted to be in her class. The catch was you had to read all her books. Like not her books, but just the books she assigned. I was like, oh my God, I'm not a great reader. I haven't read a full book in so long. But the books she introduced us to were, America's in the Heart. And then the ones by, Manang Dan. We call her Manang Dan. And just a lot of books that I've never seen about my culture. And I started reading. I would read everywhere. I would read in the car. And I would get car sick, but I was still reading. And then I would read any chance I got. And I used to commute. So it was from Vallejo. So it was on the ferry to Muni, to my school, on my way to class. I was just into it because I never read a book that was about me. And then I started questioning why. And we got into it in her class too. Like, why isn't my culture being seen in elementary school? Why haven't I learned about this? How come I didn't know about these people? And so I wanted to know more. I was hungry for it. And she introduced PEP to me because she knew I wanted to be a teacher. And so PEP, it's not only for people who aspire to be teachers, but it's for, people who are interested in the culture or just, want to be in that community. And I just jumped in. It's like, yeah, I'm going to apply. Oh my gosh. Once I applied and got through there's a whole interview because they really want to know if you're in it. Being in the program it's pretty rigorous. It's like a master's class. You're teaching, you're doing lessons plans, you're going to meetings that end at 10. It's a lot. So after that interview, it's like, okay, I'm willing to do this. I really want to know about my culture. And when they told me they teach it for younger kids, I was shocked. I was like, they have this? They have this in San Francisco? Oh my gosh, why is this only here? So I really wanted to be in it. And I got a position and I started teaching in San Francisco. And it's been such a fun journey after that. I even learned about myself. It made me realize that I felt kind of disconnected from being Filipino because I wasn't fluent. I didn't know Tagalog. I didn't know Kapampangan. I don't know why. I don't know why I'm saying that because I'm not Kapampangan. I think my husband is. But he doesn't know either. But I always felt disconnected because I didn't know my language. And I always felt ashamed when I would run into some people, I don't know, some strangers at like the grocery store. Oh, you're Filipino? Yeah, you're Filipino too. Oh, you speak Tagalog? I'm like, oh, I know the bad words,
Yeah, that's my response too.
And they're all, oh, I'm like, and it's already judged,
Yeah.
Okay, so are you judging how Filipino I am now just because I don't know the language? So that really showed me that I had trauma from that.
Yeah.
I get that. Right. Like not feeling Filipino enough.
Yeah.
But PEP kind of showed me that. And being a teacher, I got to even teach the language. It's like, oh, wow, this is cool. But it made me realize that it's not the language that makes you Filipino American. So it's kind of interpreting the past. So my parents weren't born here, and you have to kind of question the reason why they came to America and what I got out of that. And what I got out of that is my career, a great life, living in a diverse area and teaching that here now. So let me jump back. So taught Filipino history, such a big journey. I met people that are still my best friends today in that program. We still jump back and forth about resources. I'm like, okay, what can I use to implement more ethnic studies in my class? So that's that. So after I was done with PEP, I went into the credential program, became a teacher. But here's where it changed my whole perspective of being in PEP. I wanted to become a teacher because I loved kids and I thought working with kids what I was good at. But after being in PEP, it opened this huge perspective of I want to teach kids who look like me, and I want to teach in a place where they could learn about Filipino history. So when I was applying for schools in San Francisco, there were only 2 schools that had that program. Not to disregard any other school, but I felt as a Pinay, it was important for me to teach other Pinays and Pinoys.
Yeah.
So I was fighting for that. And I am so glad and fortunate to be working at a school where they allow me to have the freedom to teach about myself, about my culture, and use books that are by Filipino writers, and because looking back at it, I don't think I read a book by Filipino authors.
They're hard to find.
Yeah, like chapter books, It's just interesting to see how much they connect. And I get to use the language in my class. Like I call each table I say la mesa dalawa, like to the alfombra, la mesa apat. It's just cool. And it's not only that I'm teaching Filipinos, but I have a wide demographic too. So I have African American, I have Muslim, I have Latino, and they're learning about, Filipinos. So it's pretty tight. So yeah, that's where it is in my education world and why I want to be a teacher to brown folks, especially through that ethnic studies lens. And I'm grateful for Ate Allison to instill that kind of value in me. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like such a rare opportunity. And like you said, there's only 2 really schools that offer that. And so just how lucky you are and how blessed you are to be able to participate in that. And I wonder, when you teach your Filipino history now, is that curriculum something that the school gives you, or is that something that they give you free reign with? You find your own resources?
That's a good question. So it's actually I use Kilisan for Kids, which is written by some other folks, but Ate Allison's one of the main one, of course.
Oh, okay.
So there's a lot of resources that Ate Allison and a lot of other folks who are in PEP that made our curriculum. And also we have another lead that provides sentence frames and things we could teach for the class. So that also made me realize too, where can I find my history? And people they're constantly building a curriculum. Also made me want to do it too with one of my friends. Because I want more of this. And I never thought of writing my own curriculum, but because of seeing other ones before me and doing it, it just motivates me and empowers me to do the same thing. So it's crazy how the spiral with that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I also wonder, so before you joined our big Filipino family, because for those who don't know, Keani is married into our family by my cousin Kali'i. And before you were married into our family, you come from your own big ass Filipino family.
Yeah.
She is one of 7 sisters, 6 sisters. How many sisters do you have?
Gosh, I lose count all the time. Yeah, I think 7. Let's see, there's Paige, Kylie, Tasia, Boo, Raven. So and my sister-in-law. So yeah, 7.
7 sisters. Okay. So yeah, you come from your own big ass Filipino family. And so I wonder, as you're going through this as a college student, learning about your history and going through the PEP program and discovering that you want to teach not only kids, but like Filipino kids, and you want to teach Filipino culture and studies. Did you have kind of like those conversations with your family, with your parents, like, you know, on why they came to America, like how life was like when they were, you know, born in the Philippines, and like how did you kind of connect the dots from what you were learning in school and in your programs to what you knew at home and like what your family life was?
Right. That's a great question. It did, being in PEP and learning more about being Filipino really opened up the conversations with my mom. And a lot of it was questioning and what did you do? How did you grow up? Why did you come here? But the big question was, why am I the way I am? Mm-hmm. And I think it's because of, we were talking a lot and my mom was telling me, which is crazy because I just did this with my students here. So I opened conversations with my mom, and a lot of it was what makes me me. And I realized that a lot of it is just how she treats others. So, you know, Filipinos, you come into their house, you could be any ethnicity, anything, and they're, let's go eat. It's just the hospitality, you know, the hospitality, the nurturing, being resourceful. My mom definitely inhibited that bye-bye land, you know, just really being someone I could call anytime. And I'm like, man, I don't think all moms are like that. And I was like, why is my mom? And I think it's just generations of being that bye-bye land to others, being that mother to their family, taking care of them. It's like, that's totally a Pinay. You're always taking care of someone. You're making sure they feel welcome, making sure they're taken care of, making them feel welcome, making sure they're fed, just constantly mothering them. And I think that's where I get that from, and which translates into how I am as a mother, just making sure she's okay and giving her the world, you know. And I could see how my grandparents wanted to give my mom the world. You know, it's a little the world's a little different from theirs, but my mom just shared this too. My grandparents came here with only $1,000 in their pocket to start a new life. And look where it's brought their family. You know? Yeah, generations later. Right. And I'm sure you've heard it a lot, but like, I'm my ancestors' wild dream. It's like, wow, you know, Filipinos have been, you know, shamed. They've been colonized. They've just been not everyone, but, you know, the society's always trying to erase them for some reason. You know, but here I am teaching it in my class. So I think that's just a crazy thing for me, and gets me emotional sometimes because I think of my grandparents when I'm teaching this, like, man, I wish I had more of a conversation with them before they passed. Yeah. But it just helps me honor my culture too. And actually after I learned Babayan, like I got that tattooed on me. So it's their...
Yeah, that's so cute. What does it say?
It's Makaisa. So their last name is Makaisa, but in Filipino, you know, it's Makaisa. So they're always with me. And so when I see it, I just feel proud to be Filipino, and I am.
Yeah. And so much of that does come from our grandparents. And I feel the same way. I mean, you were there when Papa Pink died, my grandpa, and, you know, I was crying like a baby. And part of that is, you know, I had just started this like journey similar to how you were going through, you know, your personal kind of identity crisis when you were in college. For me, it was a lot later in life. And I wish that I got to have those conversations with him. And I did try to, you know, a few times, but you knew Papa, he was like very one word answers, like hard to really pull information like that out of. And I think a lot of that was also trauma informed. And so like you were saying before, we are doing the same now with our kids and with the younger generations that we're talking to, whether it's the listeners on this podcast or the students in your classroom. And, you know, we're just so fortunate to have a language to actually pass that culture down and pass that information down to them. Whereas for us, it was a lot harder to gain because the resources were so limited, even with our own families. So I think that just I want to just praise your work even more for that, because it is still very scarce. Like, it is really still hard to like find these resources, especially if you're not a part of one of those programs. You know, how do you find Filipino books? How do you find a book like America is in the Heart to like start you off on your journey to connect with your roots? You know, it's a very like long and tumultuous process to even get in touch with those. So yeah, it's amazing that little kids, you know, as young as 5th grade can start learning about Filipino studies, Filipino history, Filipino culture, even if they're not Filipino, or especially if they're not Filipino, because I think that it's one thing for us to like, you know, accept and acknowledge the importance of like hyping our own selves and our own cultures. But it's another thing for us to, for other people to like, you know, become allies and also want to hype our culture to other people. You know, it just like the visibility.
That's true. And so the community I work in is huge Filipino community. So I think, you know, it's important to learn about this community if you're, you know, going to school in it as well. And my students, they respond well to it. It's like they want to learn. And I try to connect it. So when we learn about, so I've taught them about colonization in the Philippines and like heroes in the Philippines. I try to relate it back to now. You know, like, why is this important? Like, why do we need to learn it now? And they'll get it. So it's Filipino history, or Philippine history actually is relatable to any culture. You know, it's just kind of like the feelings of what they went through and how we can make it, you know, a better place. And it's a lot of kapwa, and I teach them that a lot. So, my whole point in my class is to feel like a family. And of course, see, I'm raised as from my mom, making sure everyone feels like a family. And a lot of kapwa and a lot of kaibigan kind of spirit in here. So
family style.
Yeah, it's just totally, I want my students to feel seen and heard. And also, since I felt disconnected with my culture with not knowing the language, a super important thing for me to make sure that my students in here who aren't fluent feel seen. Like, you're Filipino enough.
Yeah.
You know, you don't need to know. The language is cool. The language is nice to know. You know, you could communicate with your elders, but that doesn't make you any less Filipino.
Yeah.
So I had to make sure that they're not being shamed by their own culture because they're not knowing it. And then I'll even ask them to, it's like, okay, what do you want to learn? So just in case, you know, something comes up, they can learn it, you know?
Yeah. And so much of being Filipino is, I think we talked about this in our interview. I don't know if you watched with Auntie Jen and Fredette. And I was kind of telling them, like, what does it mean for you guys to be a Filipino American woman? Because I feel like whatever I know or whatever I identified with really came from, you know, watching you guys as I was growing up. And it's not like they speak either, you know? And so much of what they were saying is that it's not necessarily about the language, but about the like cultural values and like just the vibes. Like, I don't know how to describe it. We'll have to like re-listen to that interview, but it's not just about the language. And I think that that's something that all of us, like in our generation, have experienced, being like shamed for not knowing, or like, you know, kind of for not knowing, dismissed, I guess, for not knowing. And that's really dying with us. Like, we're making sure to like dead that, because it's damaging, it's traumatizing, like you said, and it makes you just turned off by yourself. And I think that that goes back to that whole idea that Jen and I talked about a lot earlier on the show, like season 1 of this podcast, is like that self-loathing Filipina. And I think all of us have experienced those feelings in one way or another at some point.
Well, I guess I'll just jump in now. I just really enjoyed listening to you guys both. No, I thank you. Thank you, Nani, for carrying the conversation. I know it's easy because it's obviously your cousin here. But, you know, there's so much, Keani, and everything that you shared. But the first question I want to ask you, just so our listeners know, what does PEP stand for, in case they're interested in the program?
Oh, yeah. Give us some background.
Yeah.
So PEP stands for, so the first P is Pinoy Pinay. So that's the first P, Pinoy Pinay, Educational Partnerships.
Okay.
So you would write it. Yeah. So you would actually write, if you write it out, it's PIN, and then with the @ Y. So you have the A and the O. And then,
cute. Yeah. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
Yeah. And then it's Educational Partnerships.
Awesome. Well, thank you for explaining that. And, I always thought that was just like people trying to be cool with the @ but that totally makes sense now. You have, PIN @Y, because like you said, it accommodates both, genders. And then of course with Philippine X, that accommodates like the gender neutral, people who identify as gender neutral or non-binary. So I think that's very fascinating to, be reminded how multifaceted our community, really is. So the thing that resonated the most with me, Keani, and hearing you talk is you said earlier, it's like, how is it that like, it just seems like everything keeps trying to erase us. And yet here I am. And I love that you said that, because I'm thinking about even just my own personal journey right now, where my family and I are trying to uncover my dad's story. So a little backstory, like he served in the military. Actually, well, I'm learning a lot more, but he served in the military for about 18 and a half years in America. And unfortunately, we lost him while he was on active duty. And till this day, we don't know how we lost him. So it's been 20 years now. It's been a big mystery. And good old Stacy, our resident historian here at the TFAW Project, has invited Nani and I to contribute to their, what do you call it, the Filipino American History Month timeline for military families or Filipinos involved in the military. And in my journey of trying to write, kind of piece together my dad's history, I got really emotional. I mean, literally like all Saturday, like no joke, I was probably like, my husband was kind of going in and out of the house because I just kept bawling. Like as I was like going through some stuff, and he's all like, do you need anything? Can I get you like anything?
He's like, I'm going to step out.
Yeah, like, anything. And like, cause he kind of knew, but he didn't know how to comfort me, but you know what I mean? But anyway, at the end of the day, when I was kind of summarizing, because Stacey was asking us to share, like, what does it mean for you to know about your dad's like military history? It came down to me feeling like, well, like knowing his history is a way for my family to feel seen, and therefore for me to feel seen, just because of just this whole cultural thing about our community. Or it's like our community is notorious for forgotten history, right? Mm-hmm. And so the fact that we are in this space today, for our generation to, not have to like hide those stories. We can actually excavate these old stories and revive them and bring them to light and interpret them in a way for what it means to us and what it means in the future and how do we apply that. And I love how you said, because I didn't feel seen, like I'm going to do what I can to help the next generation feel seen. And I think that's what we're all collectively trying to do now, is to just make everyone feel seen. And, Nani and I are going to be going on break in November for the show, unless everyone follows us on Chismes with Jen and Nani, which you can learn more about at biasglobal.com, BT dubs, shameless plug there. But it's actually interesting. I haven't shared this with you yet, Nani, but I've been having like this odd anxiety of like, should I stop? Like, because here's what my mind was thinking the other day. If I stop showing up, will I disappear? Will I feel forgotten? Like, will everything we're doing be forgotten? And I know you both are gonna be like, oh, of course not, Jen, like stop that. But that's an inherent fear. And so I think in continuing to show up in this way and to have this conversation with you, Keani, it just, it's really like, I don't know how to describe it other than like, it does make me feel emotional to know, like, I don't have to do this alone anymore. I know that collectively, and this is what I was sharing with Stacy, collectively, we want this. So even if Nani and I take a break, it's not like that's the end of it. Like there are so many people in our community that want to continue to make us feel seen.
I was just thinking, I definitely share those sentiments. I feel the same way, especially after just having not been podcasting for like a month, after I had the baby. I do have those feelings of like, oh, does anyone care? Like, does this still matter? Does this work still matter? And it's helpful, the one day that you took to like really go through all of the feedback that we had received and not responded to yet, and take a day to like really respond to everybody and CC me on all those emails was like such a great reminder, which is also why we highly encourage you guys in every episode to interact with us, whether that be through the newsletter, texting us on our number, leaving a voicemail message, sending us an email. And we just, again, can't find the words to really describe how much we appreciate when you actually do that, because it does make it feel like this all counts for something. And even if we do take a break, like Jen said, on Chismes with Jen and Nani especially, that's where we really try to put the guests that we've already had on TFAW in the past, continue to community build with them and put them on a pedestal to like highlight the great work that they're doing. because so many of them, it's not just a one and done interview and then, we say bye-bye. It's like we keep in touch with those people and we keep tabs on what they're doing. And they're all doing such great work for the community in their own respective ways, from, like meditation circles to cooking and everything in between, family style stuff and business style stuff. Like there's just so much great work that they all have to kind of share. And Chismes with Jen and Nani is where we give them kind of like step aside and hand them the mic to go ahead and teach you what they know, in addition to already having gotten to know them, their story, and the lessons that they wanted to impart on the community. So yes, make sure you subscribe over there on biasboba.com.
Yeah, so if you're feeling the FOMO feelings with us, check us out at biasboba.com. Keani, I just want to check in with you, see if you had any thoughts based on what we shared so far.
I did want to say before I forget, that the work you do is so amazing. And I think it's important to really highlight the woman, especially because being a woman is something that is another thing that the society has made us feel inferior. So yeah, this kind of work and finding out from Nani or Patricia, when I found out that she did this, I was amazed. I was, what? And I appreciate you both for doing this work. It's a lot of work. And I do want to point out too that it's okay to rest. We're in a world that, we have to keep on fighting, keep on doing this, you have to, or you're done. No, it's okay to rest and reset. It makes you feel human again, to take a breather. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for saying that. And I guess mutual, like for all of us, I appreciate this moment to have all of us feel seen, by each other. So thank you, Keani, for sharing that. And, it's actually kind of interesting. So also, in addition to what you're saying, in taking these recent days to really uncover my dad's story and work on his timeline, and then the point of losing him, which was already 23 years ago, another thing that I included in my writing is my mom's thankless sacrifices of having to raise us after dad. Like here I was, for most of my life, actually, especially my teens, even though I wasn't the eldest, I was the eldest daughter. And so my mom, and this is what I learned through therapy, this is how she helped me reframe it. My mom trusted me a lot growing up. And so therefore I was responsible for a lot. And I can say that now, but it's like looking back, I remember just all the years of, especially when I started to want to learn about dad, like how much I valued his absence over my mom's presence. And so part of this whole journey of, remembering is not just my dad, but my mom, just without complaining, raised 3 kids under 11 after dad. And no matter what I put her through, she still dealt with it. And even till this day, it's like she still loves me. And there's something like just that unconditional love that I so took for granted for such a long time. And so once again, I have to thank Stacy for having Nani and I do this exercise, because it really helped me, and therapy. Thank you. Therapy is important, y'all. Everyone got to do therapy. It really helped me get to this place of, despite my mom, like not having that emotional connection or availability with me, or just having been direct with me a lot growing up, or scapegoating me, and always treating my sister like the golden child, at least from my perspective, because she was the youngest, despite all that, I had to learn that it's not that my mom loved me any less after we lost dad. She had to love me differently. And so I've come to a place where, because I can see my mom now for what she did, it makes me feel seen, and I think there's a lot of work I think that we all have to do in all of our broken families. I'm really speaking about myself, but I'm sure a lot of people can relate as well, to find that healing so that we can have conversations like this to celebrate what it means to be Filipino or Filipina or Filipinx, and discover where we go from here. And so the fact that, you're here and you're helping other people feel seen, or helping kids feel seen, I just want to bring light to that and appreciate this moment. I don't know. I'm just feeling really grateful right now.
Oh, thank you. Sometimes as a teacher, you kind of just go unnoticed sometimes. So this is really nice. Especially, yeah, especially as a Pinay. There aren't a lot of Pinay teachers. But yeah, I thank you. I appreciate being appreciated. I always tell my students, we do appreciations every day. But that it's important to appreciate each other because we know it's kapwa. We don't know who's going through what, making sure they feel seen. A lot of the things I do is making them, feel seen and heard. And so I teach 5th grade. And a lot of people don't think that they have a voice, especially Filipino girls. They're often looked as, small Asian. They can't say anything, but I'm trying to really empower them and searching for their voice, using it and really making sure that they love themselves. And even though my daughter she's only not even 2 yet, but that's my goal as a mom. That's my goal as a Pinay. That's my goal as a teacher, to make sure that that she loves her culture, she loves herself, and that she uses the power of being a Pinay to inspire others.
Yeah.
I did want to also add how amazing it is to see children's books that have her in it. They have a bunch of books with Tagalog words. We have the Beautiful Eyes book. You probably have that too, right?
I don't have it yet, but everyone keeps sending it to me saying I need to get it. Hero has a whole bookcase full of books already. So I'm because on our registry, I just put hella Filipino books from
Love
that one store in SF that has all the Filipino books and especially a good kids section too. Yeah. So we have a lot of books, but I'm yes, I want that one too.
Yeah.
So yeah,
maybe you could borrow it next time.
I was gonna say, I've seen Kenny's collection at home, and I feel like there are some books on her books
I know.
that we don't have.
I stole this one from her collection.
So beautiful.
Yeah, these two are actually from People in Pet as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So I will have to get the names or just borrow them from you guys.
Yeah. There's Lapu-Lapu too, the first hero of the Philippines. So.
Beautiful.
But isn't that cool? Our children.
Yeah.
See, Filipino history right there at the tips of their hands. And
that is.
I love that, It's just been stories. But then again, I feel like our ancestors were just so raised to not share their stories. So this generation's so tight that we're trying to uncover them. So I'm telling you, the work you guys do is amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I think one part of it is fighting for those resources that are more kind of available in a school format, what you're doing. And then another kind of the new age way that we're sharing information is by all these social media platforms, by podcasting, which is the new kind of citizen journalism or news media kind of resources. And so it's a combination of both. And I love that we are making sure to show up in all of those spaces, not just trying to, insert ourselves into one or the other. And then on top of that, really taking on that personal responsibility in our own lives with our own kids. For me, if I had a girl, I feel like it would be so easy for me to pass down what it means to me to be a Pinay to her, because I would just copy what my grandma did with me, but with a boy, it's so different. I don't know what to do with a boy. And so I think that has also brought a lot of conversations out, like you were saying with your mom, for me and my dad. And even, I'll text Kali'i sometimes and be what do I call his private parts? I think I asked Stacey that too. I think I asked Stacey and Jen that too. But those are little things that, are part of my cultural identity that I don't know how to pass down to a boy, because now the people that pass it down to me, my grandma and grandpa, are both passed away. So it's just really special to me to have all of you guys as resources, all of you guys as part of my family, because I'm gonna need help,
We need to stick together.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, that was a great segue, because the next thing that I wanted to kind of talk about is for you to dive in a little bit with your personal relationship with your daughter, Ekena, and kind of what it is. I think she's still so young. How are you really teaching her anything? But I'm sure you're, finding ways to do that or making plans to do that as soon as she's old enough to grasp, pick up what you're putting down. So do you want to just dive into your relationship with her a little more. I know it was also really special in your last program that you got to bring her to work with you. So she was kind of present for everything that you were doing. And, you know, what a once in a lifetime opportunity to do that too.
Right. Yeah. I love that girl.
We all do.
Oh my gosh.
She's such a sweetheart.
She's crazy. So I guess a little background. Her name's Ekena, and she's named after one of her ancestors, which is your ancestor too.
Yes.
Her name was Edna. That was Patricia's. Or do you want me to call you Patricia?
It's okay. You call me Patricia. Everyone knows.
Yeah. So Patricia's and my husband's grandma, that was really close to them. So Ekena is the Hawaiian translation of Edna. So that's why it was really special.
Oh, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, so to get into the culture with her, she's starting to talk a lot more. And so one thing that I lacked as a kid was, you know, learning the culture, or not culture, but learning the language more, Tagalog more. And so we're starting with a book that my mom actually got her, and it's called like Ano Ito. And then there's a bunch of things in the book, like, you know, mangang kulay, colors, and then body parts, you know, eyes, ears, down to the food, you know, like what is bread, you know, all these things. So that's where I'm starting, because she is still in that baby talk, but she'll say no. Yeah. She knows no, but that's where I'm going to start. And also with songs, you know, bahay ku, well, because she's a singer. So that's where I'm trying to access her as a learner. Here's the teacher talking, but access her as a learner, just, you know, bringing in the songs, bringing in the language. And so one thing I wish I had too is my husband's cooking skills. So I want to learn how to do more of my food with her too. But I think that's my husband's thing. I'll jump in. But
that is definitely his thing. Yes.
Right. That's the thing. So I mean, I tried to, but he'd rather do it, you know?
Yeah, okay. He's good at it, so we just let him.
Yeah, just, you know, I'll make dessert or something.
We'll bake the cookies, yeah.
Yeah, we'll bake the cookies. So just things like that. I want to get her into, you know, eating some Filipino food. Mm-hmm. And part of what I think being Filipino is too is, you know, of course, being respectful to your elders and honoring them. So she's already at that point where she loves her grandmas and grandpas. Just trying to think of more things. It's really just the language, but as she gets older, I do want her to become more involved in the community. So since I'm in a big Filipino community, I want to start bringing her around to Undiscovered. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've heard about that, but in San Francisco, they have Undiscovered. And really being a part of that and just really instilling kind of that nurturing thing. I know she's young, but she's very good at taking care of things. She'll throw away the trash. She's so good. She'll trash and she'll throw it away, or she'll spill it up. Or I don't know if you saw, I'm sorry, moving for the sun, but Patricia, I don't know if you saw my story the other day, but she was already taking care of a little baby at her daycare. It's like, oh my gosh, she's showing kapwa. That's kapwa.
Oh,
you know?
how sweet.
You're a kaibigan, you know? Just like, that's that. So just kind of, as she gets older and starting to be aware of others, I really want to instill that practice of treating others the way you want to be treated, which is kapwa, and really taking care of others. That's kind of the road I want to go down. And of course, you know, all the cultural stuff. So getting into you know, the dance scenes, because that's big with me. Jen, I don't think you know this about me, but I love dancing, any kind of dancing. So I don't know, you see me cha-cha, but then I also Tahitian dance too. And I've done the, you know, tinikling and...
I've never been a dancer. So like I ran a Filipino culture night in college. Yeah. And I just had everyone else dance. I was like, I will direct, I will write the script, I will, you know, do what I need to do. I'll put my foot down on things, but like y'all can do the dancing. Yeah.
In the same way.
Yeah. Luckily it turned out that one of my childhood best friends like knew someone from our high school who like grew up like teaching Filipino dances from just even pre-colonial times and all that. Like, I mean, if it wasn't for them, oh my gosh, I don't know what my Filipino culture night would have looked like, but Yeah.
Yeah, that's one way I express my culture is definitely by performing. So that's one way. So I'd like her to get in that one day and just to kind of love being Filipino. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And,
so
I think like
small, we're really starting small, but she's actually making me, I'm learning from my daughter. She's almost 2, but I'm learning from her and the kind of mom that she's making. How do I say that? I'm definitely learning from her, and she's teaching me how to be more of a Pinay as well.
I love that. I mean, very often what Nani and I find when we do the show is that it's really when Pinay becomes a mother, when they feel more invested in, preserving the culture and even teaching it. So I think it's just a beautiful thing that you're doing. And this is what I often say on the show, like, we're going to be Filipino for the rest of our lives. So what's the rush? We don't have to teach everything, right? And plus, she's still young. And even though she may not grasp everything, she's still absorbing it, and it's like the body remembers, right? And so everything that you're showing her, in your own example, and your husband's example, and, just your family, your community, like you said, the fact that she was already practicing kapwa, at such a young age, sometimes it is all about action more than words. And, when I look back at my relationship with my mom throughout the years, actually, I was thinking about this the other day too. It's like, I don't actually remember, because like I mentioned, I was 10 when I lost my dad, but I don't actually remember what he told me other than some lullabies he used to sing to me. But I always remembered what he did for me. I remembered his presence. I remember doing stuff with him. I remember him doing stuff for me. And I think that's really the spirit of the generation that comes before us, is their love language is acts of service. So I think that with your daughter, there's no rush to teach her, because she's clearly going to be Filipino for the rest of her life. And it's great to see that she's off to a great start already practicing kapwa.
Yeah, I love what you said, Jen, about just that they'll absorb it. And I think, again, it's great that they're exposed to it.
Yeah.
At my age, I was not exposed to it at all, especially, again, in books. And also in shows now, like Joshua De La Cruz is the Blue's Clues guy, He's, oh my gosh, that's huge, he looks like me, he's on TV,
Yeah.
So it's really cool to see that. And I'm glad my daughter's going to grow up with that. And he will, so it's really interesting. And you just reminded me, so things like this. So I'm wearing a malo. And this reminds me of kind of motherhood, because this is what I knew this as, kind of a form for dance. But what I kind of discovered what it is you could carry your baby in a malo. And I have a bunch that my ninang brought for me, because we use these for our wedding. I had this on tables, and it's kind of, and I shared this since it's Filipinx American History Month, and, so I'm really going hard at it in my class. So I explained this to them too, how it's beautiful, how it's not just fabric, but it has this sort of infinity. And we learned this in PEP too, but it's this infinity kind of thing where, it just kind of, we use it as a wellness thing.
Yeah.
And everywhere. But it's like this circle, it's infinity. And PEP used it as wellness. If you wear it, you're taken care of. And this is like PEP, that you're being taken care of. It's kind of a mothering or nurturing symbol as a Pinay, as a Filipino mom. And actually, I don't know if it was this one, but I tried to put Kenny in it. She wasn't the type of sling person, but I tried to hold her in this once, because you can.
Yeah.
You could wrap it and make it.
Show me. Yeah.
I'll give you one.
Yeah.
But, I just wanted to point out that that's what I'm wearing right now, and how everything in the Filipino culture is so symbolic, and it's so beautiful, and it makes me really proud to be a Filipina.
Yeah.
Yes.
When we first got on video, I already got the mother vibes from that. So I was like, I didn't even know it, instinctively. I saw it and I was like, oh my gosh, not that I was assuming you're a mother, but yes, I know you are a mother, but it's something about it has that maternal vibes,
Yeah. I mean, you do everything in this. You carry them. You'll probably carry Hero, and I'll give it to you.
Thank you. I want to. That was a great tidbit to drop, since it is Filipino American History Month, and since you are, teaching that to kids in your classroom. Also, I see you're Spirited Away. Is it a book?
Oh, yeah.
there. Yes. That's not Filipino, but I like that still. That's one of my faves. We've already talked about that. Yeah, in the spirit of Filipino American History Month this month, what are kind of the main things, and you don't have to share all of them, obviously, it's a whole month's worth of curriculum, I'm sure, but what are like the main things that you are highlighting for your students this month?
We're going hard. We're going hard, Patricia. Today,
I love it.
Today, I taught them how to tinikling. Okay.
Yes.
What did they do?
I have, what was it?
How did they do?
It was so tight. I mean, I don't know. You don't have to put this in there, but here's a video of them. I just want to show you. I'm so proud.
Oh, I want to see.
Yeah, we have to see this.
Wait.
For video only,
For
listeners.
video.
Yes, make sure you're watching.
I was sweating so hard. Hold on. Hold on. Let me find a good one when they got it. Let's see.
They got it.
Yeah.
How long did this take them?
Oh, like 30 minutes. So I have 30 minutes to teach like the culture, and then we did the activity. Let me see.
I love that.
It was fun. Okay, is this a good one? Oh my gosh. Let me see. Sorry.
Yeah, as you're looking, I and you can answer this like later, but I'm curious. I mean, yes, I understand that. I think it's amazing how the school allows you like, 30 minutes a day, is it? To talk about like something cultural. Now, is it like, could it be any culture, or is it like because you're Filipino, you've chosen to teach Filipino culture?
Yeah. So this school, since we're in a big Filipino community, it starts in kindergarten. It's just a language program that I think is the only one at this school. So it starts in kindergarten and it goes all the way up to middle school. We have a middle school down the street. So yeah, so we teach, the curriculum from kindergarten. And so that same class, they kind of move up together. But once they get to fourth and fifth, the class sizes, they start to shrink. So it goes to 4 classes, into 3 classes, and then into 2 classes. So that's me. I'm the Filipino biliteracy class, and then my team member is a general ed. So we do the same thing. We teach the same curriculum. It's just that every day we have to teach 30 minutes of Filipino language and Filipino culture. So, which I'm totally on board with. I was like, yeah. I wanted to, there were positions open for younger grades, but I was like, I want to be with my Filipinos and I want to teach this.
Yeah.
I was really inspired, but okay.
Yeah. No, I think that's a dream. I think for anyone who has kids to want to take them through a public school system or a school system in general in America, that's going to teach you about Filipino culture. It just, once again, I appreciate having Nani in the Bay Area, because I feel like in just you being there, I can kind of like peek into a window into the life of what it's like to be, heavily involved in the Filipino community. Anyway, Keani, if you want to share the video you're oh so proud of.
I don't know if this was one, but this is them. Wait. This isn't it. Hold on. Let me just there's me.
Oh my God.
Wait.
Oh my God, fun.
Oh wait, here's me.
You see the kids with the sticks.
You can see me there. I go, hey. But so tomorrow, so this whole week, so get back on your question, this whole week,
yes,
we're focusing on the dances. But I'm also going to implement more American stuff. So not just the dances. I want to highlight Filipino, Filipina, Filipinx dancers here too. So I know, there's dancers around here, and I kind of want, and also musicians that are Filipino that I want to highlight too. So it's not just like the cultural folk. So we're going to do that, and also do the what are we doing now?
Yeah.
So today we started with tinikling, and then tomorrow we're going, I think it's called Pandago sa Ilaw, where it's the, where...
No, yes.
So
I have done it
tomorrow. Yeah, we're doing that tomorrow. So that'll be fun. And then next week, so everything that I do, I try to really match my students, which is really important to me. I want to make sure that, they're interested in it. They see their self. That's in everything. In reading, writing, is this for my students? Okay. So next week, all of them are into like rap music and just music in general. So I'm actually going to have one of my pep colleagues who is actually working with Ruby Ibarra. If you don't know who Ruby Ibarra is, she's like a tight Filipino MC rapper. She's so amazing. And if you haven't listened to her stuff, she really digs deep into, the trauma and kind of the fight for being Filipino and the future. So she's really cool. And so next week is more about music and kind of the Pinay's music. So we're going to analyze Ruby Bar's lyrics and kind of see. So this is why I like fifth grade too. They're at that age where they could interpret what it means to them. And so see, this is how I could use it with non-Filipinos. Just like, okay, like what does this lyrics mean to you and how can you relate to this culture? It's a lot of content that's invested in ethnic studies, which I'm very passionate about. So that's what we're going to do next week. So it's like music. And so Rocky G is the one that I'm going to have to talk to my class, and he's a musician. So, and then like next week, the week after that is food. So it's a lot of things that they like, and I'm going to try to connect it to them, and also Filipinx History Month. So it's a lot of stuff being planned. But they're going to have it's fun. So I'm going really hard on this. Like, yes, let's have a kamai. Just kidding.
For kids too, I can just see like a whole food fight breaking out.
I know, like maybe not, but my class, they're great. They're such a great group, and I just think that this generation's so, what they call woke.
Yeah.
So it's easy to really talk about social justice with them and to think about, unfairness and about empathy and respect, which is also in the Filipino culture. So I'm very fortunate to be teaching at a school that allows me that freedom.
Yeah, I think that's also one thing that I try to do, on this podcast or with my blog or just in conversations with people too, is like, Jen, when Stacy asked us to do this project about your dad and my grandpa, about Filipinos in the service, and she told us, to write our paragraphs as if we were speaking to like a sixth grader, like how can you relay this kind of heavy information that's like really content heavy in a digestible way for someone that is not related to the issue or to what you're talking about to understand and to be able to like grasp the impact of it, So I think that that's an important point, not just for like talking to younger kids, but also, like you said, talking to non-Filipinos of any age. It's like, how can you make this relatable content to them so that they, care about what you're saying, so that they want to retain this information and care to like, tell it to somebody else maybe, or, however they want to use it, not just hear it in one ear and out the other. So I think that that's another really special thing about getting to work with kids as young as you do, but kind of like you said, at that sweet spot age where they're still able to like interact with the information and not just be like, you're talking to them and they don't talk back.
Yeah. So it just reminded me of one thing when we were doing colonization in the Philippines. So I liberated this from also PEP resources, but what we did, I had them write 4 things they can't live without. Right. So a lot of them put Fortnite, Fortnite games, right? But I was like, okay, like what are things you can't live without? And I gave them my family. So they put family, my mom, or they put my mom, dad, food, water. And then I told them, I was like, would you say that these things mean a lot to you? Like you can't live without them. Yes, like this is mine. It's like, okay, hold it to your heart, right? These things, hold it to your heart. Like these are the things you can't live without. Okay, now hold it up, right? And then I went over to each table. So that's mine now. Sorry, you can't have that. That's mine now. Sorry, crumbled it. I don't even care what it is. Let me see that one. Oh, your mom. Oh, sorry. I don't care. And then so that kind of dove into what colonization was about.
Oh, wow. That is a good lesson. Oh my God. So they're
just like, what? And then I asked, like, how did that make you feel? Why? And then they're like, I'm angry. I want to hit someone. I was like, yeah. What else do you feel? And it's like, I was telling them, these are the same feelings that Filipinas felt when they were colonized for how many years, so they can understand, so it was really interesting to figure like, wait, what? And then you have these people trying to fight me for me not to take it from them. So it's like, yeah, see, that's what they're trying to do. So it's the same, know, and it's just like, okay, what do we do now? How did that impact our life now? It's like, oh, I can have all this stuff now. It's really interesting.
Yeah, that's a great activity. How creative. Like, did you come up with that on your own?
No. Okay. I liberated it from one of our PEP lesson plans.
Oh, yes. You just said that. That's good. That's really good.
That's like, I felt the trauma.
Even not your face. Like, that's really good.
It's just a piece of paper, but like, I felt it.
Yeah, I was really like, hold it to your heart. This is yours, now it's mine.
Well done.
But, so like, I guess for, listeners, it's like these children are capable, of knowing their culture and knowing the feelings and emotions. It's teachable. And I'm really glad that I get to do that. And I could do that for, this generation and so on. So it's a really cool situation that I'm in.
Yeah. As you were explaining that activity, because right now because Nani and I are going to be doing a Chismis with Jen and Nani special with one of her best friends about the book, America is in the Heart. And so I've been listening to it. I'm currently on like chapter 9 or 10, but just
14.
Huh?
I'm on like 14. I realized that when I started listening to it again on Audible, that I've already read it. Like I've already.
Okay, cool. Yeah. In my downtime now at nighttime now, this is like super random, but I decided to like get back into crocheting. And so, because I can't just listen, like I can't just like listen to an audiobook or podcast. I have to keep my hands busy. So I typically play like Tetris or something like that. And so, but I was like, no, I need to do something. I want to do something productive. Like I want to have a product at the end of this, not just playing Tetris. And then my score always gets erased when I leave the tab, when I close the tab. But anyway, that's a conversation for another time. I'm reading about the part where, and I don't remember all the characters' names, but the father, where his land was essentially like taken away from him. And this is not really a spoiler alert. I don't think it is, but just that feeling of, like, I remember, I think the dad or one of the characters was asking like, are they just allowed to take our stuff like that? And then the dad was like, yeah, or not the dad, but I think the brother said like, yes, they can, like with the new regime or whatever they were explaining. And I hope that me like not explaining this well doesn't spoil anything, but with the new regime, it's like, yes, they can take your stuff away. So when you were explaining that activity, I felt the words that I was listening to when I was listening to America is in the Heart. So just, wow, that's impactful. So yeah, Keani, you're amazing. I feel your heart and your passion and maternal vibes, not just for your daughter, but even for, your kids, your students here. And in listening to our entire conversation today, at least for me, what I'm sort of taking away is that we have, come from a generation of survival to now a generation of being seen and fighting for that, so that in the future, the new normal is we just take up space. Like there's no question about it. There's no insecurity, no self-doubt about taking up space. It's that we're here, And so that's sort of what comes to mind in hearing us all talk. And, again, it's very affirming to hear this. And, I feel like Nani and I are, as we are going through Filipino American History Month and having these conversations, it makes me feel like we're going to end really strong. And I'm going to have really good feelings that will continue to, echo even while in the off season. But anyway, before we talk about the off season, because we're not there yet, we still have plenty of time this month. Keani, I was thinking about Ate Allison and how she really, I think the word that I want to use is like maybe amplified or something, but she like really popularized ethnic studies. Mm-hmm. I think in the school system, when we think ethnic studies, it's like, oh, this is just the school system checking off the box that we acknowledge that there's different ethnicities here, in America. But I think she really popularized it and celebrates it. And I'm just kind of curious to know, and maybe you don't know the answer to this, but, will we ever see like just a complete expansion of like Filipino culture and language? Like, will we ever see it branch out completely where it's not necessarily ethnic studies? It's just Filipino culture. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to ask. Mm-hmm. And do you think we could?
And this brings up something too. But I hope so.
Yeah.
It's such a strong thing that's not only beneficial for, school, but just treating others well.
Yeah.
Again, like Filipinos have that hospitality and that kapwa. And I think that's ethnic studies right there. Just understanding people and making sure they're seen and making sure they're heard. That's ethnic studies. And I hope that using Filipino studies allows that to kind of gear towards that empathy and respect for each other, So I wish I had the answer. I wish I could say yes, but that would be an amazing thing to see in this world. That does remind me that one of my goals was to, as a mom too, is to hope that my Kenny girl can be in PEP one day to learn about this too. So that's just a side note, but I just remembered I wanted to say
she's grandfathered in.
But a life lesson, I feel like there's different audiences. So a life lesson, like for my students, for children in general, is to just to realize that life is such a process, especially being a person of color, especially for being a Pinay, a Pinoy, but to acknowledge the struggle and to acknowledge the hard work towards that, and just to really love yourself while doing it. But while you're doing that, to make sure you're honoring the ones before you. So like I owe a lot to my mom. I owe a lot to Ate Allison, to Manang Don, just to my grandma, just to all the women who paved the way for me to be where I am right now. And I hope I'm making them proud, just by sharing our culture, making sure that their stories are heard. And I also do that by sharing the stories that I've heard to my students. So now they're learning about me and learning about my grandma. So that's a life lesson to my students. To teachers, there's a lot, I don't know. To teachers, it's just to, make sure, especially my Filipino teachers here, is just to make sure that we are not only highlighting the fluent speakers, but also the ones who are working hard on finding what it means to be Filipino. So coming from a teacher, everything is about progress and making sure that you become the best person, making sure you become the best person as you walk out my door. You come in, and when you leave as a person getting better, person learning more, a better person on just your personal stuff. But I guess it's just to make sure that your students are seen. For moms, sorry, there's I don't know. I can't really
go with it.
One.
We never said to just pick one. We've had past guests do a couple,
There's no limit.
Yeah, there's really no limit. It just depends on your time.
Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. It's just, this is how, for me, I have to break it down or my brain doesn't process. But
do you?
Right. So I guess for moms, it's just to always, I guess the life lesson that I learned as a mom is to really instill that nurturing vibe, to make sure that they're loved no matter what. Such a mom thing to say, but it's true. To really, I don't know, just to instill those values that you've learned from your moms as well. I don't know. That's very cliche. I feel like that's been heard a lot, but it is.
No. I think that you're running with the theme, and the theme that I'm noticing is just validation. Right. You are working so hard, and also we, with this podcast, our kind of generation or community that we have today is working really hard to validate the next generation, and that comes from the work that we've had to do to validate ourselves, because of the lack of validation that we've seen with our, parents and grandparents' generation. So I think that is just the theme that I'm noticing, in all the different groups that you cater to, whether it's your child or your family at home or your students or the pet community even, is this theme of validation. And I think that, in your words, you can put that into whatever words that you feel necessary, but I think that that's not cliche at all. And even if you do think it's cliche, it's something that we need to kind of keep feeding into our heads, because as much as we talk about it, we Jen and I just shared about going on our break. Like, we still need that sometimes. And it's difficult to like take that responsibility on yourself. You know, if the conversation is happening 100% in your own head, how are you ever going to get out of it? How are you ever going to expand? So it is important to continue to bring it up and continue to highlight all the different ways in which we need validation. So yeah.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, Nani always does a tremendous
wow. Yeah, I totally said that.
What exactly?
Wow.
Just copy paste.
Yeah. So thank you for that. And it just makes me think about all the new moms, you know, you, Monique, you know, Marissa, all of our family members. Now my sister's next. She's in December.
Oh,
yes, a girl. Another Pinay, another Pinay. So it just makes me realize too, like, okay, this is the next generation. We have a goal here. We have a goal for them to, one, be leaders in this world, to, you know, make sure they know their community so they can be part of their community. I guess that's with me. Community is huge. And I think that's why, because I come from a big Filipino family. But I guess a life lesson that I've learned is to use your community and to use your resources. I always used to think like, I don't want to bother Ate Allison. You know, she's doing a lot. Or I don't want to bother some of my PEP colleagues. But here's my life lesson. Use your resources because they're here to help you. Ate Allison always provides me the resources. She was my, you know, down to like my letter of recommendation, you know, and then resources to teach in my class, or just even, you know, mental health stuff, like what you need, you know, how can I support you? It's huge. So life lesson, use your community, or if you don't have a community, like I'm sure there's ways for you to find one. That's another conversation, I guess. But I hope these life lessons are inspiring. I don't know. I'm just...
Yeah, I wanted to
feel like I'm running out of words, but
no, I got you know, Nani always does a tremendous job summarizing. Even when I just kind of go off, she somehow makes sense of all of it. And you know, one thing I find even from our listener feedback is that we always somehow find an overall theme for these conversations. But I actually appreciate you sharing all the life lessons, because it also is an example of how multifaceted we are, how as a Pinay, there's so many different layers to us. You know, you're not just a teacher, you're a mom, you're a wife, you're a sibling, you know, and so to be able to give those lessons to, like Nani said, to the different groups that you're involved with, I think is beautiful. And the other thing I wanted to add is like, you know, that validation that we need. It's like, you can hear it one time, but just like with a shower, as soon as you get dirty, you should shower, right? I mean, you should probably shower before you get dirty, but the point is that you know, we constantly need it. And the other analogy I was thinking of just now is, you know, I think about like a scar. And a scar, unless you put cream on it all the time, you know, it's going to stay there. But even as you know, even if you make it part of your routine to put cream for the scar to go away, you know, it's still going to be there. Like, you can't see it, but I have like a tiny scar under my eyebrow from when I was a kid and I ran into things. Blame my brother. He was my role model growing up. But the point is that like, we're carrying this generational trauma, and it's probably never going to go away in our generation, which makes it all the more reason for us to validate each other collectively, right? And so, you know, even just hearing about like, you know, grandparents that are no longer around, it's like, well, thank God for kapwa, right? Thank God for community. That's what we're about, is like, we can lean against each other, you know, and share our resources to not feel like we've lost something. And it's very reassuring. I think that's really what I want to wrap up in saying is I feel validated in our conversation. So, you know, Keani, I just want to thank you again for being on our show. And Nani, thank you for inviting your cousin. I'm curious to know if you would like to let people get a hold of you. How would you like for them to do that?
Oh my gosh. Wow. We've never been asked this question. I guess my Instagram's the best way. I share a lot of stuff on there with motherhood, teaching, and just being an overall Pinay. So so it's my first name, Keani, X Ekena. So that's my I was going to say my last name.
My daughter's name.
I know, it's my daughter. Yeah, so it's at Keani x Ekena. I also have another Instagram that's solely for teaching. It's at Pinay Educator.
I love it.
So they can reach me there. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I also have to just comment, like one final comment is I love how I see like two Dominguez's like on this call. Your name. Like of all the people we've interviewed, Nani, like, you know, you've always been like, I mean, not that I've ran into another Amos to interview, but like, you know, it's just kind of cool to see your family name, you know, in this conversation.
I know my aunties that we've interviewed do not have last name Dominguez. So yes, this is a first, but yeah, I mean, on that note to end, I think that makes me think of something that I wanted to bring up before about Papa, my grandpa, before he died, which was right around the time I feel like that you guys had Ekena, maybe a little bit before, or a little bit after, a little bit before, right? I don't remember. Oh yeah, because he passed in November and she was born in January.
Yeah.
So yeah, something he said to me when he was in the hospital is that you were the only one technically that could carry on our family name, the Dominguez family name.
It's Kali'i.
Yeah, because Kali'i is the only boy.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank you, you know, for doing that. And I know you guys plan on having more kids really soon. And I just feel really grateful to have you as a resource in our family, and also, you know, learning how to navigate motherhood and being a new parent with you guys, and that our kids will get to grow up together, just like me and Kali'i did, and all the other cousins. And I think that that's just all I could hope for when I think about imparting, you know, my Filipino identity onto my son, is really that tightness that our family has. I want that to stay the case, and I want us to teach them what that means and what that looks like. And I think that it's a beautiful thing that we all seem to be on the same page with that. And I feel just so happy that we were able to get you in here on the podcast in time for Filipino American History Month, because what a powerhouse you are, and all the amazing work that you're doing deserves to be recognized. On the note of validation and reassurance, it deserves to be recognized and highlighted and promoted. So thank you for everything you do and for sharing it with all of us today.
Gosh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, I don't even know if you're speechless. Yeah. I mean, all glory to the ancestors and God and just all the ones who paved the way for me. But I am so thankful for you asking me to be on the show and letting me share my story. It's making me think that I never really shared my story this way. It's just, of course, through conversation with you and through, you know, job interviews, you know, but that's why I want to be, you know, where I was at. So thank you for creating this platform for me to share my story, you know, to share my passions, you know, my passions of being a teacher, a mom, and you know, my favorite is being Filipino. So thank you so much. I enjoyed this a lot.
Absolutely. Jen and I like to say that this is like our virtual living room here. So whenever you want to come back, next time we'll bring our drinks.
Yes. Please.
Yeah.
I'll be in a different setting.
Oh yeah, not in the classroom. We won't
Yeah.
Yeah, we should start that up again, Nani, as you know, when you
now that I can do that.
Yeah, now that you can do that. Yeah, no, for sure. I like how we kind of been like, you know, just clean or dry this whole time, but you know,
Jen and I used to get really drunk on this show,
like all the time
in the early days.
A lot.
Yeah. And then
I don't know if you'd want me to be. I don't know if you'd want me back on your show.
Now we have to do it, and you are invited. Awesome. Okay. Well, let me go ahead and wrap this up. Keani, once again, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. And of course, to our listeners, we'll have Keani's contact information in the show notes. And Nani, thank you again for co-hosting with me, as well as bringing on your cousin. I'm so appreciative to be in community with you and doing the show, because you know, going back in history, you're talking about history. When I first started the Filipino American Women Project, I was doing all the interviews by myself. So I just appreciate, you know, kind of this ongoing accountability and support and sisterhood to, you know, keep this going. So thank you, Nani.
Yeah, no, of course. And it's my, you know, opportunity to learn. It's my unconventional classroom, this space here. And the way that I've been able to find and connect with all these resources that really hold the mirror up for me and show me who I am. So it's through, everyone that's been on the show who's been willing to share their story with us and just have a conversation and become a part of the TFAW family that has really just made such a difference in how I interpret my Filipino identity as a Pinay. So thanks to all of our TFAW sisters and our listeners and our family, and to you, Jen, of course.
Received. And happy Filipino American History Month to everyone. Thank you for listening, and we'll chat with you in the next episode.
Yay. Bye.